In the Pacific theater of World War II, the difference between victory and defeat often hinged on the smallest pieces of information. The skillful work of American intelligence officers would play a pivotal role in shaping the course of the war, and in April 1943, a breakthrough of immense significance was made. It came not in the form of a bomb or a missile, but in the form of a radio transmission. This seemingly innocuous message, intercepted by the cryptographers at Fleet Radio Unit Pacific FRUPAC, would set in motion a daring mission that would ultimately strike a blow to the heart of Japan's naval command. The importance of this transmission cannot be overstated. For months, the United States had been trying to piece together the movements of one of the most dangerous men in Japan's military, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto. Yamamoto, the mastermind behind the devastating attack on Pearl Harbor, had continued to serve as the architect of Japan's naval strategy. His presence and influence were crucial to the Japanese war effort, and the United States knew that eliminating him could significantly cripple Japan's ability to wage war in the Pacific. The message was intercepted by American codebreakers working tirelessly at a classified facility in Hawaii. These cryptographers, often working around the clock in the shadows, had cracked a Japanese code known as JN-5. It was a complex and sophisticated system, designed to keep enemy forces in the dark about Japanese operations, but it had a fatal flaw: it was not perfect. One slip, one misstep, and the entire code could be broken, and that's exactly what happened. The message decoded by the American team was nothing short of a game-changer. It revealed Admiral Yamamoto's exact itinerary for a tour of the Solomon Islands, a critical region in the Pacific. He would be flying aboard a bomber, accompanied by a small escort of Japanese Zero fighters. The message provided not only the dates and times of his journey, but also the exact route he would take, a rare and precious piece of intelligence. With this knowledge in hand, American military commanders knew they had an unprecedented opportunity to strike a decisive blow against Japan's naval leadership. But to act on this information, they would need to move quickly. Time was of the essence. Yamamoto's tour was only days away, and the window of opportunity for an interception was narrowing. The stage was set for one of the most daring and risky missions of the Pacific War. The men who would carry it out had little time to prepare, but they were about to face an operation that would test their courage, their skill, and their very lives. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto was not just another high-ranking officer in Japan's military. He was the mastermind behind one of the most infamous attacks in history, the surprise assault on Pearl Harbor. His vision and strategic insight were pivotal to Japan's early successes in the Pacific War. However, his role extended far beyond the planning of the Pearl Harbor attack. Yamamoto was the architect of Japan's naval strategy, and his understanding of the United States' capabilities was second to none. This made him an especially formidable enemy, but also a high-priority target for the Allies. Yamamoto's military career was marked by both brilliance and pragmatism. Born in 1884, he came from a long line of samurai, and his early education reflected this. However, his career would take a unique turn when he was sent to study in the United States in the 1910s. He attended Harvard University, where he honed his knowledge of Western military doctrine. This time in the United States had a lasting impact on Yamamoto's worldview. He became deeply aware of the industrial strength and technological advancements of America, and his strategic thinking would be shaped by this understanding. He knew the United States was a nation capable of rapid mobilization and innovation, a fact that would later influence his tactics in the Pacific. Despite his respect for American power, Yamamoto was also a man of his time, loyal to his emperor and fiercely committed to Japan's imperial ambitions. His leadership during the early stages of the Pacific War, particularly at the Battle of Midway, showcased his ability to think several moves ahead, like a chess master positioning his pieces. Yet, Yamamoto's strategic brilliance came at a cost. He was deeply committed to the idea of a quick and decisive victory in the Pacific, but he knew, as did his counterparts in Japan's high command, that the longer the war dragged on, the more likely it was that Japan's resource limitations would eventually catch up with them. Yamamoto's vision for Japan's war effort was ultimately shaped by the reality of a prolonged conflict with the United States. He understood that Japan's survival would depend on its ability to strike swiftly and decisively, especially before the US could fully mobilize. Yet, by 1943, the tide of the war had begun to shift in favor of the Allies. The United States had scored critical victories at places like Midway and Guadalcanal, and Japan's once unassailable naval power was beginning to wane. In this context, Yamamoto became an even more important figure. His leadership represented the heart of Japan's military strategy and resolve, making him not just a military leader, but also a symbol of Japanese strength and determination. The Allies understood that removing Yamamoto from the battlefield would not only disrupt Japan's military command structure, but also deliver a blow to the morale of the Japanese people. His death would be a symbolic victory, demonstrating that even the most formidable figures in Japan's leadership were not invincible. The United States knew that targeting Yamamoto would be no easy task. But with his precise travel schedule now in their hands, they had a rare opportunity to strike a decisive blow. The stakes were high, but the potential rewards were enormous. A successful operation would not only eliminate one of Japan's greatest military minds, but would also send a powerful message to the rest of the world. The United States was willing and able to take the fight to Japan's doorstep. With the critical intelligence in hand, the stage was set for one of the most daring and meticulously planned operations of World War II. The mission to intercept and eliminate Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto was not one that could be taken lightly. The American commanders knew the risks involved. They would be sending their pilots over 600 miles of enemy-controlled territory, flying deep into the heart of the Solomon Islands, a region heavily patrolled by the Japanese military. This was no ordinary mission. It would require precision, daring, and a great deal of luck. The man tasked with overseeing the operation was Major John William Mitchell, a seasoned aviator with a reputation for decisive action. Mitchell was given the responsibility of planning and executing the mission, and he immediately began assembling the team of pilots who would carry out the strike. The operation would involve a small squadron of P-38 Lightning fighters, a versatile and powerful aircraft known for its speed and firepower. These planes were a perfect choice for the mission. They had the range to reach the Solomon Islands, the firepower to engage enemy aircraft, and the maneuverability to execute a high-speed interception. But even with the right planes, the mission was fraught with peril. April 18, 1943, dawned as a day that would forever be etched into the annals of history. The pilots of the American P-38 Lightning fighters were ready. They had spent days preparing, checking their aircraft, memorizing the intelligence, and ensuring every detail was accounted for. They knew the stakes. Their target was clear: Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, the mastermind behind Pearl Harbor and a symbol of Japan's military power. His life and the fate of the Pacific War were now in their hands. As the P-38 pilots took off from their base on Guadalcanal, the sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the Pacific. Their mission would take them deep into enemy territory over 600 miles of hostile waters, where Japanese forces dominated the skies and seas. The pilots would have to rely not just on their skill and courage, but also on the element of surprise. Any misstep could lead to disaster. As they flew over the open ocean, the P-38s maintained a tight formation, flying low to avoid radar detection. The pilots, including Captain Thomas Lanier and First Lieutenant Rex Barber, remained focused, knowing the risks that lay ahead. Their journey was long, but their minds were sharp. They knew they were hunting for one of the most dangerous men in the world. The skies grew tense as the pilots neared the location where Yamamoto's bomber was supposed to be. Their destination was a narrow window of opportunity. If they arrived too early, Yamamoto's plane might not yet have taken off. If they arrived too late, he might already be heading back to base. It was a race against time and a battle against the odds. As the P-38 pilots neared their target zone, the clouds parted, revealing the unmistakable silhouette of Yamamoto's aircraft, a Mitsubishi G4M Betty bomber. It was accompanied by a small escort of Japanese Zero fighters, a formidable defense force in its own right. Without hesitation, the American pilots dove into the attack. They had caught the Japanese by surprise. Yamamoto's escort fighters were unprepared for the speed and ferocity of the American assault. The P-38s engaged the Japanese Zeros, engaging in a fierce dogfight above the Solomon Islands. The roar of engines and the crackle of gunfire filled the skies. Despite the Zeros' reputation for agility, the P-38s proved to be more than a match, thanks to their superior firepower and speed. Captain Lanier and Lieutenant Barber were in the thick of it. They weaved in and out of the cloud cover, skillfully avoiding enemy fire while delivering devastating strikes. Their target, however, was not the escort fighters, it was the bomber carrying Yamamoto. They knew the fate of the war in the Pacific could hinge on the success of this mission. As they closed in on the bomber, the moment of truth arrived. With deadly precision, the P-38 pilots opened fire, their machine guns tearing into the bomber. In a swift and decisive move, the P-38s struck Yamamoto's bomber, sending it spiraling out of control. A massive explosion ripped through the plane as it fell from the sky, crashing into the jungle below. The roar of the bomber's engines faded into silence, leaving only the stillness of the Pacific sky in its wake. Admiral Yamamoto was dead. The American pilots had done what many thought impossible. They had not only eliminated one of the most powerful men in Japan's military, but had done so with a level of precision and bravery that would become the stuff of legend. The mission was a resounding success, but the consequences of Yamamoto's death would ripple far beyond that moment. In the immediate aftermath, the news of his demise sent shockwaves through Japan's leadership. Yamamoto's loss was a tremendous blow to Japan's morale. His death struck at the very heart of Japanese naval strategy, and the Japanese people were left grappling with the loss of their most respected military leader. The psychological impact was immediate and profound, but the effects on the broader war effort would take longer to fully reveal themselves. For the United States, the success of the mission was a major victory. It demonstrated the effectiveness of American intelligence, advanced aviation technology, and military strategy. The precise execution of the mission showed the world that the United States could take the fight directly to Japan's doorstep. The loss of Yamamoto did not immediately end the war, but it sent a clear message to Japan that the balance of power in the Pacific was shifting. In the years that followed, the mission to eliminate Admiral Yamamoto became a symbol of American resolve, courage, and ingenuity. It was a moment in history when intelligence, technology, and military strategy combined to deliver a decisive blow to one of the most formidable adversaries the world had ever known. And for the pilots who carried out the mission, it would forever be a testament to their bravery and their role in shaping the outcome of the war in the Pacific.